Okay, we're here because we want to increase our conversion rates. You may have heard of something before with standard sales, which is very much called objection handling. And that's where you get to work directly with someone. They can tell you the reasons they're not quite ready to buy, and you can persuade them. You can give them reasons why they should. Now, that's great from a face-to-face point of view, right? Or even on a Zoom call. But how do you do that on an e-commerce store? That's what today is all about. We're going to pretend for a second and we're going to go t-shirt shopping in this particular example. And the reason I'm going to use t-shirts is not because it only works for e-commerce, like it is not. It works for everything. It's just the easiest way to explain it, right? So this is what most e-commerce stores are showing you, right? So they'll show you a photo of the product, so you have an idea if you like it. They'll give you an idea of price. They will give you an idea of what size it might come in. They will reference the individual colors, and if they're good, they might give you some ideas of reviews, so therefore you can know if it's that. These are the standard things that would happen on an e-commerce store, but what we really want to think about is that inner monologue of what someone might have. What are these thoughts that they're having? And these are these objections. There's a reason why someone might not buy there and then. And now remember, we don't have this lovely option of being able to answer their objections and being persuasive in person and answering them. So we need to come up with ways of understanding what those objections are and then visually answering them on the site. And that's what we're going to be discussing today. So as an example, not huge amounts of research done here, but you can start to see if we start to flesh this out just a little bit further. Actually, I might not even be buying it for myself. So the persona might be that I'm buying this as a present. So all of a sudden, one of my objections in my head is this gift worthy? Would my ex like this? Would my wife like this? Would my friend like this? There's a very different way of buying a t-shirt if I'm buying it for someone else than if I'm buying it for me. Next is, how durable is it? Now, that might not come across, it might not be that important to some people, but these are objections that are going through people's potential. These are objections that are going through people's heads. Next is, how easy is it to wash? Again, like I don't want to have to hand wash all my clothes, or can I go in with everything else? Can I go in with colors? Can I go in with just whites? Understanding that. Next might be body type. Is it going to fix me because I am X? I am very muscular. I am slightly larger. I am very skinny. I am very short. I am very tall. All of these things will be items and objections that's going around in people's heads. I'm not going to read all of these to you, but there's a huge understanding here of there's a lot that's going on in people's heads now. And if I flip back to this version, this is what most e-commerce stores will do, right? They will give you some basic understanding and expect you to make the decision pretty much based on the brand and the style of the top, and obviously the price. That's about it. Whereas what we're saying is, to really drive up conversion rates, you need to really thoroughly understand what the user's concerns are and how your product fixes those concerns, and then visually answering those. So next step is we're going to compare a couple of different t-shirt companies that are doing this well and some that aren't doing it so well. So what I wanted to do for this video is I just went to Google, typed in white male t-shirt, and just open the top 3 sites, right? But the easiest way of doing this is just being able to then directly compare, because I've also gone with ads. So these people are spending money to push me to the top of to their particular page to try and buy their white t-shirt. Now, from a point of view of this is almost like live reaction now, but let's have a little look through this. So as we scroll down, obviously I'm on quite a large monitor, but obviously I can see the imagery. This works fairly well. On the right, on this particular side over here, this kind of stays in place. So I've always got my options to buy. And essentially they're very reliant on me looking at the product. Obviously these close-ups are fairly useful because I can see a little bit more of the detail. I can see some of these aspects about how it hangs. I can see how it looks on the individual people. So that's fairly beneficial. I would say from a color point of view of these different ones, those are there, but everything is very muted, presumably from a style point of view to make it feel expensive. But actually these sizings then don't stand out. The add to bag doesn't really stand out either. I wonder if I select here. So if I do select a size, the add to bag does become brighter, which is okay. And these are fairly nice as well, actually. Model information, so they're highlighting how tall this person is. It's quite useful for me to be able to then see that. I can see that they're there in the medium, they're size medium with 32 regular in bottoms. They must have incredibly short legs if they're 6'3" and 32-inch legs. But anyway, we won't discuss that. And then we're roughing through things like 100%. This is washed separately, it says. Colors may transfer, do not tumble dry. So there are some references on here about things, but it's not particularly visual. There's not a lot for me to go off. It's very much just based in here, and then there's a little bit of information that comes into here. So, as far as this first one goes, pretty standard, right? Not a lot of excitement that we can take from this particular design. So the next one that we had loaded up. So again, I'm kind of purposely showing you this, but obviously we've got just one image on this one. I know there are a couple. So this is called parallaxing, where they appear to be moving at different speeds, whereas or one is static and one is moving, and actually they're both just moving at different speeds. It's quite a nice feature. So again, they're kind of showing the image. They are showing a little bit of detail around the neck. And then there's a couple of photos of him wearing it, how it might look, showing some of the seams. That's about it. There's obviously then the sizings, although it doesn't really give me an indication of overall sizings. Compared to the last one, it's obviously not giving me any real information around, I don't think it is, about how it can be washed. No, it's not really giving me a whole load of information around really anything, right? It doesn't tell me how tall the person is, doesn't really guide me in any way to what size I should buy. It's instantly starting at extra large, which feels a little strange. I'm surprised it doesn't start in a slightly smaller size. I'm guessing from looks of things, if I go on large, it's because everything else is sold out. Fine. And there's a little bit of contrast here, but other than this, there's not a lot going on. And I think they've also purposely designed this so it looks really clean here. But I wonder if there's a lot of people who don't realize you can scroll down and see these other imagery. I wonder if their conversion rate is fairly low. Who knows? Either way, they're sending a lot of traffic to this particular one with their ads. It'd be interesting to know that. But again, overall, not great. We're going to move on to one now that is pretty good. So let's have a look at that one together. So the first thing to say on this particular one is I'm not actually think this is necessarily the nicest looking design. It feels very busy. It feels very cluttered. I wouldn't be surprised if this is more designed for a mobile, and we will look at the mobile version in a minute. But actually, the overall design feels quite busy compared to everything else. And this is sometimes the thing with being a design aid or a design agency, right? It's like we want it to look beautiful and really aesthetic, but actually it needs to convert as well. And this is something that this site obviously is doing particularly well. So first off, we've obviously got just a straight image, but then we do actually have some video to show how it fits. You can see the guy moving in it. It gives you an idea of the flex in the material, and that's just stuff you don't get from a static image. There's then a few different imagery from different points of view, how it sits on the belly, how it sits from afar. It's also showing us on different size models, which I think is a really, really nice way of kind of running through those. And there's also these little things up here for like, what's my size? And this pops in and I can put my information in about how tall I am. I can say that I'm 6'2". I can say how much I weigh. It's a really nice way of doing it. I'm just kind of running through here. But anyway, that's quite a nice system. I think the other thing that they do well is they have this credibility building situation over here where I can click into the individual. And I've got a direct comparison. I get to view that. So again, I think it's really helping to build credibility. It's nice and easy for me to switch between different colors, which all makes sense. I can also buy in these different packs, which works well. I then got the overall description. I've got a perfect fit. I've got a guarantee. It's going to give me a care guide with some basic information around it, which again works quite well. And we're referencing free returns and exchanges. As I scroll down the page, and this is what's quite nice, is like if I've not made my decision by now, actually let me show you a little bit more that might try and answer some of these concerns. So obviously what they're trying to push is the overall fit, how it kind of sculpts your arms and your shoulders and goes up the baggy in other places. Trying to make a reference to that. And they're also, I think this is a really nice testimonial section where they reference the overall height, weight, the usual size, the size they purchased, their overall height, and then there's a testimonial. And that's great because if as a user, I can get my overall context from that. Now, I appreciate that if you are a brand, you might not want to necessarily cheapen your brand with too much salesmanship, right? I completely get that. If you want to look really premium, maybe you don't want to go down this way. But at the same time, if you're just starting out or you don't have a particularly high conversion rate, then you need to get your ego out of the way. You need to start having a look at some of these options because these are going to be selling really, really well, right? If you look at some of the other sites that we've just pulled up, there's like 5-6 reviews. This has 54,700 reviews. There's just a large difference there that I think we really need to consider. I also thought it made sense just for us to run through from a mobile point of view. So again, this is nice because I can just swipe through. It's fairly clear from the design that there's other things off screen that we can still cycle through. So that works quite nicely. And then everything that we would need to interact with is above the fold, meaning I don't have to scroll down. So I can pick my size, I can add to cart. There's a high contrast level there. I also think it's really nice that they've got these credibility builders on show. Like quite a lot of them might think, well, actually, let's just have the add to cart as the main thing that they see, whereas just building in these additional credibility builders is a really, really nice way of doing it from a mobile perspective. They'll still pop open. Full screen is a really nice way of doing it, and sort of upselling other options in there. I think that works particularly nicely. We still have our descriptions and open and our other information, which works particularly well. And obviously we've got our reviews and they all fit in nicely as well. So I think I said this before, right? But like, I don't think this is necessarily the most aesthetically pleasing of all the sites that we've actually looked at. But from an answering those objections and those concerns, that's a big difference. And what they're really doing here, they're answering those concerns in a really visual manner. Now, this is all very well and good, but at the moment, what we're doing is we're very much just talking about these t-shirts, right? We're not necessarily gone into the overall objection hunting and what else can happen. How do we figure out what some of these concerns are? Now, there's going to be two main things I'm going to cover in this video, and then I'm going to do a really detailed video all around this. So if you are interested in having a proper video that goes into full detail of the entire process that we would run at Strafe Creative, then maybe give it a like or give it a comment so that I know that's of interest. But I want to make sure there's like a cheeky bonus for some of these. So the first one is just to start with is load up your competitors. Get like 10 of your competitors all loaded up, get a pen and paper, and like we're going a little bit old school here, but run through the sites and look at the messaging of what they're talking about. What things are they highlighting? What things are they avoiding talking about? And like word all of those out individually. Because we're not necessarily at the moment trying to figure out how you can apply that fix to your site, but instead what you need to do is just really highlight the things that they are doing. So the fact that they're, the True Classics one is trying to show the clothes in certain ways, or they're purposely highlighting the size of the model, or they're purposely doing X and Y. It's really nice just to look at what your competitors are doing. Now, if you're in a fairly new market or your competitors aren't really doing much, I appreciate that's not necessarily the place to start, but it's a nice one for us to just do. And the second one that I want to give you is actually looking for reviews online of individual products or services, right? And the reason this is really good is especially if you're selling something product-based, you generally see in reviews is they have like a plus and a minus thing at the top of each page. It's like the 5 pros of this product are X, Y, and Z. The 5 cons of this product are X, Y, and Z. And those immediately, if you start to look at a load of different reviews, you'll start to see a bit of a pattern of what those are. And all of a sudden that might give you information to go like, oh, well, our product actually doesn't have that problem, so we should highlight it. Or our product has this benefit, so we should highlight that as well. So those are a really beneficial way of doing it. Looking at overall reviews, more of an industry standard, not just about your individual product, but if you're selling phones, don't just look at the phone that you sell. Look at loads of different phones to see what they do well and what they do and what they don't. That's going to be really, really beneficial. Now, from a reviews point of view, if you're doing something B2B or you're selling something more of a service base, you can still look at that from a generalized point of view. There's still lots of review sites. There's lots of things where they're talking about the industry as a whole, and those are going to be really beneficial for you to have a look at. I'm going to do a whole video because there's about 8 different things I think that we would do at Strafe, and I can run through those in big detail to help everyone, but those 2 should give you a little bit of a starting point. And that's it, guys. There's a little bit of objection hunting and objection handling for you all there. Hope it was useful. Bye.